Hey guys, what's up? You got Cam from Awakenpedia here with another video teaching. Today we're going to talk about the essential existential question: who am I? Perhaps the most important of all questions, and perhaps also the only real one that matters. Um, and paradoxically, of course, it's the one question that has no answer, and that no answer is the answer. You discover yourself through the stillness. So today I want to give you guys a really quick, easy, deductive exercise to try to answer this unanswerable question. So let's see how it goes. But this also pairs well with my awareness teaching on Awakenpedia, so I recommend checking that out as you guys watch this and see how it resonates afterwards. But let's go through a simple exercise here, trying to answer the question, who am I? So, who are you? Well, start where you are. Let's just imagine for a second that you are who you are, right? You got your life, it's going on, a million things, very busy, lots of things that you have and you do, and busy life going on with a busy schedule, and um, that's your life, right? As far as you would describe it. So now let's imagine for a second, and as we go through this exercise, just try to bear with me to set aside the impracticalities of these things that we're about to do, and instead just flow with it, okay? Just go with it. So imagine for a second that everything you have in your life disappears instantaneously. All of your havings, all your possessions, car, home, titles, assets, money, net worth, network, all of it, right? Imagine all of it's gone. As these things disappear, they're there one day, the next day, they're gone. As they disappear, do you disappear? Are you gone? And if you sit with that, and you may even have experienced this before, have gone through some type of tragedy, crisis, um, you lost money in the stock market, lost a house, this and that. You've gone through it. And of course, no, you have not disappeared. You are still there. You were still there going through it, and you came out still there afterwards. So no, right? You're still there. Something is of that you would describe as you is still there after losing everything you have. So now let's keep going. Let's keep stripping. Imagine now also that everything you do disappears. Your job, your habits, your routines, the various things that you do in life, all of your doings, just like your havings, instantaneously disappear. Gone. So now you don't have or do anything. Just imagine it. Who are you now? Are you gone? Do you no longer exist because you have nothing and do nothing? Well, there's a you that's examining this question, is it not? So there is some sense of you that continues to exist, even though you have nothing and do nothing. Right? It's an indisputable fact. So let's keep going, keep stripping. You have nothing, you do nothing. But there's still a you there. So what still remains? Let's keep going. Now examine and imagine that all of your senses as well disappear, like a float tank. Sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste. Your senses, sense perception as you know it, is gone, disappears. Do you also disappear? Do you no longer exist because you no longer have the ability to perceive with your senses? Was Helen Keller someone who didn't exist because she didn't have sight and couldn't hear? Of course not. Of course she existed. And of course you would too. There's millions of people around the world who don't have access to their senses, and yet they're still here. They still have life. They still are of life and exist, do they not? So, of course, you still exist, even though your senses disappeared. And even though you have nothing and you do nothing, you still exist. There's still something in you that is able to say, yes, I am still here. Something is still here. So let's keep going then. What else remains? What else can be stripped? So you could say, well, I have nothing. I do nothing. I can perceive nothing because I have no senses, but I still have my body, right? So now imagine that you, for all intents and purposes, lose complete functionality of your body. Can't move it, can't do anything with it. You're still breathing, but you can't do anything with the body. So it's as if you have no body and that you are nobody. There's lots of people around the world who don't have the ability to move their bodies, as if they have no body, quadriplegics, various other conditions and circumstances that can make it seem as if you have no body. Do you disappear if you have no body? No, right? Those people that have no body and have no access to the body, they're still here, they still exist. So you can't be the body. Because as the body disappears and you lose access and functionality to it, as if you have no body, there's still a you that's aware of not having the body. And so now here we are. You have nothing, you do nothing, you have no senses, and you have no ability to use your body. Who are you now? What's left? Well, you could say, you are your mind. I am my thoughts. I am my mind. To which I'd say, okay, if you believe so, think of a tree. You're your thoughts, right? Think of a tree. The tree behind me. Now, as that thought of a tree disappears, as it must, every thought comes and goes, do you also disappear? If you believe you are your thoughts and you are your mind, as the thought of the tree comes into awareness and then out of awareness, are you gone? Do you cease to exist because the thought of the tree disappears? And the same goes for the feelings, right? Remember, think of a time that brought you deep anger. Remember that. Feel the anger in your body. Remember how you felt when the anger was there. And then remember that the anger, the feeling of the anger disappeared, did it not? You probably didn't remember it until I mentioned it right now. So the anger, of the feeling of anger, just like the thought of the tree, comes and goes. It's not permanent. It's temporary, transient. And so, just like the thought of the tree, if anger comes in and then it disappears, do you now disappear? Do you cease to exist because the anger no longer is there? Of course not, right? These are rhetorical questions to help you understand and see that no, you also cannot be your mind, cannot be your thoughts. They come and go like clouds in the sky. They're passing by. Transient objects of consciousness that are byproducts of mental activity. But it's not who you are. It cannot be who you are, because when the thoughts and feelings disappear, there is a you or some sense of you-ness that continues to remain. Does there not? Of course there is. There has to be. So what's left? Who are you when nothing is left? You're not what you have. You're not what you do. You have no senses. You have no body. And you have no mind. You know you're not the mind. You're not your thoughts or your feelings. So who are you? Who are you when nothing is left? When there's nothing left to strip, who are you? And it just so happens that that question is also the answer. You are nothing. You are nothingness. You are emptiness. All that remains after stripping away everything is the awareness itself. All there is awareness. Awareness of all of these various things that come and go as we strip them away. The one constant that remains is the awareness itself. And that's who you are. There's awareness of the breath and awareness of awareness itself. Now, the breath is a really interesting thing to contemplate because the breath is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit. It is the innate intelligence within you that is the manifestation of God itself. Think about it. You are breathing, and you've been breathing this entire time watching this video and probably haven't been aware of it once, but it's been happening beyond you. It's been happening. It's been happening to enable you. God has been coursing through you via the breath to enable the human form that you temporarily are. But the true, real you could accurately point to as saying is the breath. For the breath is the manifestation of the innate divine intelligence that empowers the body without your personal voluntary involvement, which is absolutely beautiful, right? Because the breath is such a clear, obvious indicator of God. It's evidence of God itself. You're not controlling your breath. It's happening. It's happening in the now, through the now. And so anyway, the essential point here and thing to remember and take away is that you are none of the things that can be stripped. You are nothing that comes and goes. You are nothing that can be changed. You are the changelessness upon which change occurs. So that realization is so fundamental, and that deduction exercise, I hope, really served you in the sense of being able to help you see that you can continue to strip away and continue to strip away and strip away and strip away until there is nothing left to strip away. And when you get to that point, you realize that is who you are. You are what cannot be stripped away. You are the permanent essence that enables all change in form and manifestation observed here on the physical plane. Now, this sense of self, true sense of self, has many names. And it has many names and can go by many varying names because it is ultimately nameless. The truth is beyond the mind. Who you are is ultimately beyond the mind, beyond comprehension or any type of verbiage, anything that we can describe. It can never accurately encapture the truth, which is why, as the koan points to, who you are is the question that has no answer, and that no answer is the answer. And it's realized beyond the mind through stillness, through the presence. So I'll share a few names, however, that often are used throughout the spiritual domain and industry that are pointers to your essential self, to the higher self, the fundamental ground floor, true, absolute self, right? So one name you could use to describe yourself is nothing, as we just showed, right? Strip away everything. All that's left is nothing, which is who you are. Nothing. Quantum science also helps reveal that and confirms ancient mystic wisdom and intuition that have, they've been pointing to for millennia, which is when you're observed under the microscope at the subatomic level, you, as a physical self, disappears, absolutely disappears into nothingness. You dissolve. There's nothing actually solid about you. You dissolve back into the nothingness of infinite potentiality in the quantum plane. So, nothing. Yet at the same time, you could also describe yourself accurately as everything, because God is in everything, and you are of God. This is why we're all inseparable and connected as one. So, just as you are nothing, you also could be described as everything. You are in and of everything because we all share the one inseparable, fundamental, essential quality of self, of source. You could be described as presence, which is the state of being beyond the mind, here and now. Not thinking, just being. Presence. You could be described as pure awareness, as we also just showed through the deduction exercise. All that's left is awareness, awareness of awareness, awareness of nothing. Awareness is what remains, pure awareness, which is to be so completely free from the objects of awareness that your attention is on awareness itself. That's pure awareness. And that's what you realize when you go through that deduction exercise, that all that remains is awareness of awareness. You could also be described as pure consciousness. Consciousness and awareness often are synonyms that go hand in hand and help to point to the same one essential realization, which is that You are that underlying, indwelling essence that enables all objects of awareness or all objects of consciousness. So pure consciousness is another way to describe it. The Buddha likes to say you are emptiness. Now he uses emptiness because you can't make a concept, really, a mental concept out of emptiness. So it's a very wise way of describing who you really are. Because what is emptiness? Of course, as you awaken, you come to realize that emptiness, there's nothing more full than emptiness. Jesus says you are the light of the world. He also says that he's the light of the world. And we are one as a result. The light of the world is the light of consciousness itself. It is the light of awareness. Spaciousness is another word to describe you. It's a Tolle's word. Eckhart Tolle I'm referring to, but spaciousness, everything exists in space, which is beyond any type of finite measurement. It is infinite in scale and scope. Every object of spaciousness exists within spaciousness. Like the sky has no beginning or end. You as well have no beginning or end. Your true self. There is no start or end to spaciousness. It just is, and it's infinite and eternal in its inherent quality. So spaciousness is a very fundamental way to describe your essential self. Eternal, infinite, as I just mentioned, those are other ways to just point to qualities of your fundamental nature. Another one from Eckhart Tolle, you are most fundamentally the now. Yes, the now, the eternal now. Both on the horizontal and vertical dimensions. And what I mean by that is the horizontal dimension of the now embodies all of the content of what's going on in this world, in your world, in life. The content. The content is what you have, what you do, your roles that you play, the things going on in your life, the people in your life, all of the content, right? That's the horizontal dimension, which is one level of the now. It's what is observed here on the physical plane of existence, as well as, which includes the mental emotional planes, right? So the horizontal dimension of the now includes all of your thoughts and feelings and everything else that's transient, that comes and goes, that's of form. Everything of form is on the horizontal dimension of the now. But the now, the true now, also includes the infrastructural vertical dimension of the now, which is what houses and enables all of its content. This is the eternal nature of time. True time is timeless. It's always been now. It's never not been now. The past and the future are simply constructs of mind. They don't actually exist outside of the mind. It's always now, right now. It's never not been, never won't be. It always is the now. The now in the vertical dimension is what provides the structure through which all of the content and the drama and the play of life unfolds in the horizontal dimension. So you could also be described as the now, which points to, which I really like because it points to our humaneness and our beingness, right? Being a human being. Their being is a reference to the vertical dimension of the timelessness of the now. And the human points to the horizontal dimension of the now, your temporary form. The vertical dimension of being is formless. The horizontal dimension of human is of form. You are the universe. You yourself are a microcosm of the macrocosm of the universe, and it all exists within you. You are energy, pure, undifferentiated energy. In your essence, that is who you are. You are the quantum field of infinite possibility. You are raw, pure energy. You are truth. You are the truth that cannot be named or described, only pointed to. And that's why, again, what we're doing here is just using words and concepts to be able to point to that which you essentially truly are. But it can't be known with the mind. It can't be analyzed or intellectualized. Otherwise, you get stuck at the mind and you're just developing spiritual ego, and you're not actually advancing your consciousness. You just think you are. And that's the problem. You're thinking. Ultimately, though, I think that I sense the best name to describe you is the nameless I am. I am, period. Not I am a student, I am a brother, I am a mother, I am an athlete, I'm a corporate professional, I am retired, I'm a millionaire, I'm not a millionaire. I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. I'm this for a little bit, and then I'm that for a little bit. It's craziness to believe you are something, but you are in actuality, in truth, the nothingness that enables all things to be. You are the I amness that enables the I am something. You see? So you are the I am. And I am what you are, and you are what I am, which is why we are one, and we are inseparable. We are of the same oneness. So I like to use the word I am. In fact, I actually got it tattooed on my wrist. It's probably backwards. But I got that as a reminder, because that's whenever I get dragged back into ego, I remind myself that I'm not these things that my mind makes me believe I am, or fools me, or I, temporarily believe my consciousness gets caught up in some form and confuses my identity with it. I look at my wrist and I remember, I'm not those things. I'm the I am. I also have now on this arm, by the way, which also is probably backwards. It looks like probably Mon or something, but it says now. It's Eckhart Tolle's watch. The now and the I am. Highly recommend getting both of those tattoos. Maybe it will be an Awakenpedia thing. So those are all the names and words used often throughout this industry to point to who you are. There's countless others, right? But those are some of the big ones. Now let's also just highlight a few more of who you're not, a few names of who you're not. The biggest ones that people tend to confuse themselves with. And I know we just went through this exercise in deduction, but I think it's an important, this entire space is so, repetition and redundancy is so important, because what we're doing is unlearning all of the garbage and conditioning that has been either imposed on us or inherited karmically, that we've come into this incarnation with. And it still is our responsibility to see beyond the noise, to let go of all that we're not. Right? That's what we're doing here. We're unlearning. It's an undoing. It's a relaxing back into self, back into who we are. So, some of the common things that people believe they are and confuse their identity with, they believe that they are these things permanently, which is what causes them suffering, because they're of form. And everything of form, no matter what it is, over time must dissolve. Everything of form must dissolve. That has to be remembered because it's so critical. There's nothing of form that is permanent. So to believe that you are it is a recipe for suffering and disaster, because it means that you are deriving your sense of self from something that's inherently unstable, which then makes you inherently unstable. So it's not a big surprise that you're anxious or whatever, other emotional disruption that you're experiencing that's upsetting the homeostasis that you're meant to be. It's disrupting the peace because you're afraid of losing that which is what makes you you. So this is a correction. We're just correcting the errors in interpretation that miscolor our perception. So you're not your body, right? We know that. The body is a vessel. It is just a piece of form through which consciousness is expressing itself temporarily in this form. And that's it. Your consciousness being expressed in a human body, but you are not the human body. It's not who you are. It's not actually, truly, fundamentally who you are. It's just who you temporarily are expressed as, that the consciousness is being expressed as. So you're not your body. And the same goes for the mind and the personality. You're not the mind or the personality, as we just showed. You're not the thoughts. You're not the feelings. You're not, the brain, which is part of the body that's responsible also for creating the personality and psychological structure. You're not those things. That's just form. It's more form. It's temporary. It will dissolve. After the body dies, the brain dies with it. All of the thoughts, feelings, that's part of the form identity. It's not who you are. You're not your education. I went to Yale. It means nothing. It's not who I am. Could have gone anywhere. People like to take their education and then bolster it up into something to support their mind-made sense of self that makes them feel really good. I can't tell you how many kids from the Ivy League have such massive egos because they went to the Ivy League, and they were grandfathered in too. Like, it's just so silly. I'm going to go through a lot of these just quicker, not to explain each one, because ultimately they all point to the same essential concept and realization, which is that you are none of these things, because they are all just disguised pieces of form that appear to have some sense of stability, but in actuality, in truth, they're not. And they will dissolve and they're unstable. And so I'm helping you, just pointing to these to show you that if you identify with these things, they will bring you ultimately suffering, because they will dissolve and they're not stable. So you're not your ethnicity, right? You're not where you came from. You're not your life situation, which is important to distinguish from life itself. Life is consciousness. Your life situation is an object of consciousness. So you're not your situations and circumstances and conditions in life. That's not who you are. It's just a life situation. You're not your possessions, what you have, all of the So many people spend their whole lives chasing money, chasing things, believing things are going to bring them salvation, happiness, fulfillment. Time and time again, we see that they don't. We're seeing more and more people of wealth and material accumulation come forward to say, this is not the answer. But of course, everyone has to come to see that for themselves. You're not your relationships. That's a big one, massive one. So many people identify through others. They derive their sense of self because of attachment through others. And attachment is to invest your sense of self into another, which ultimately is an error in that you believe that they are now a part of you and you're a part of them. And it sets it up for a dysfunctional, highly dysfunctional, and ultimately toxic relationship, because that's inherently conditional. So you're not your relationships. Your relationships are meant to serve as mirrors to help you ascend in consciousness, to purify yourself of ego. They're the mirror that reflects back to you your projection that you're projecting onto them. So just remember, with relationships, if they trigger you, people you're with are triggering you, don't get upset with them, because you're the cause of your own suffering. So when you're being triggered from a relationship that you have, stop pointing the finger outwards and take some time to examine what's going on with you. Your triggers are your teachers. And it's the more you can rewire that process of believing that others are triggering you and responsible for why you're feeling upset, the more quickly you're going to advance on this consciousness journey out of ego, out of victim mode, and into true power. Power. Similar, on the same vein, you're not your job. A lot of people identify with their job, what they do, massively. CEOs, big titles, big reputations, lots of status, make lots of money through the job, like well respected in their little corporate culture. It's all temporary. Every king that's ever walked this earth is gone. Momentary masters of a fraction of a dot suspended in a sunbeam. That's not power. That's not who you are. Don't confuse your job and what you do with who you really are. You're not your car, you're not your home. Again, you're not any of these possessions, right? Big ones, though. People love their cars and love their homes. You're not the past, and you're not the future. I talked to this a little bit, 10, 15 minutes ago when I was talking about the now. It's the now that's the only thing that exists. But when you believe in the future and past as true, absolute realities, you're existing within the mind. Because when you really contemplate it, the future and the past are nothing more than thoughts in your mind, right? Think about it. Like, contemplate it. Just contemplate that question. Does the future and past actually exist? Well, you can do another simple deduction exercise to realize that no, they don't exist. I just believe that they exist. And when you get rid of the erroneous belief and instead are seeing clearly from the place of truth, you realize that all that there is the eternal now. All that exists is the now. When the past happened, did it not happen now when it was happening? And when you think of the past now, are you not thinking about it right now? And the same for the future, right? When you think about the future, you're thinking about it right here and now, are you not? Of course you are. You're thinking about it right now. And when the future comes, if it comes, whatever you imagined, will it not come now? Should it come? Of course it does. So the past is the now is the now, and the future is the now. It's all the now. When you believe in the past and the future, though, is when you get mentally sick, because you're believing in an illusion and you're separated from source, separated from truth, separated from the now itself, which is your true home. And it's why those who are so identified with the future, they tend to experience a lot of anxiety, right? Because they're trying to control the now. And those who are living in the past with regret and bitterness and, holding on to a past now, they tend to be depressed because they're living in the mind. They're living outside of the now. They're living in time, in the mind, which are illusions, and that's what makes us sick. When we believe in illusions, we get sick. We're separated from truth. We're separated from absolute reality, the truth of what's going on. So the past and the future are not who you are. People tend to try to identify through those things all the time. It's what drives this entire world, and it's why we're so insane. Everyone's trying to predict and control the future. The entire money supply is based on predicting the future. The entire banking system. Every investment decision is based on the future. And it's not to say that there isn't, some type of, there isn't a role or a place for looking and planning and making goals. Of course there are. But we do it here and now, and then we stop living in the mind, becoming obsessive about it and sticking there. We come back to the present, come back into being and out of the mind. If we stay in the mind, it makes us sick. So just to wrap through the last remaining of these, you're not your gender, right? Male, female, whatever gender it is. Again, it's just the expression of consciousness in a form. When we get caught up in the identity of a gender, we get stuck in gender roles, and we get stuck identifying in certain categorical classes of people, and you don't want that either. So, male, female, it's all ultimately one of the same. We're all being. Male or female is just a certain expression of the form, but it's not, again, who you fundamentally are. You're not your illnesses. You're not the way in which your form gets disrupted. Cancer, addiction, mental illness. You aren't these things. But they do point to the disconnection from what you really are. We get sick when we're carrying trapped energy that is not supposed to be trapped. And we carry trapped energy when we don't know how to let go and release that which we are not, out of the confusion of believing that we are it. The past, the future, relationships, jobs, this, that. It's all that energy sticks to us, disrupts our homeostasis, messes up the equilibrium of our natural state of pure being, and ultimately, over time, if sustained chronically, it makes us sick. It manifests ultimately both in mind and body as what we call illness, depression, anxiety, cancer. Because what happens is when you maintain a certain energetic composition that's egoic in nature, or that's mind-based, over a long enough time, it ultimately trickles down from the mind into the body through neurochemicals, that then ultimately penetrates your cells to affect gene expression, which, in other words, can be described as mutation. And mutation is the basis of cancer and why tumors grow and why there's disruptions in the body that are observed. And it's also why we see so many times in life and in the world the ability to instantaneously heal through realization that you've simply been holding on to something that you are not. And with the correct way and approach of realizing who you really are, that energy can be released instantaneously so that the tumor or whatever physical, chronic, autoimmune disease that you've been struggling and dealing with dissolves. And it dissolves because the ego is dissolving. And the illness is just a manifestation of the ego. So I'm gonna pause there. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. If you made it this far, hopefully it served you a bit. Your consciousness, pure consciousness, pure awareness. And so why does all this matter, right? I'll wrap this up with these last words here about like why does this even matter? Outside of the things I pointed to in terms of addressing illness, but you know, awakening, so much of our lives and essentially the entirety of suffering occurs because of our fundamental confusion of who we are, our essential identity. It's the reason why we have world wars. It's the reason why we are violent with each other, why we are abusive. It's the reason why we carry addictions. It's the reason why we carry mental illness. It's the reason why there's no love. Waking up to who you are is what will help us individually and collectively rise from fear and greed into love. We will rise out of competition and into cooperation. We will rise out of duality into non-duality. We will transcend the polarity of life and come into oneness, which is the essence of what everyone's talking about the new earth and shifting into the new paradigm. It's a shift of consciousness. And realizing who you are fundamentally is the name of this game. It's what we're here to do. It's our destiny. It's our purpose. And it transmutes suffering into peace. And I speak from this direct firsthand experience. I was somebody that was struggling with suicidal ideation, deep existential depression, deep anxiety, deep meaninglessness, hedonism, nihilism, addiction, you name it. I was struggling, suffering, and just absolutely, utterly lost and miserable. And I had all of the success, right, in the world. I had the money, I had relationships, I had security, I had all the blessings that, and the dream, as everyone says. And yet I still was that. I felt so soulless, lifeless. Because in many ways, I was disconnected from my soul. I was living completely in the material, physical world. And so, in many ways, it was as if I was soulless and lifeless. And that's not sustainable. That's not what we're here to do. So this matters, realizing who you are beyond all the noise, to realize that you are the underlying, indwelling formlessness that enables all the form in the world, the form that you are. That brings you into such a grounded, stable place of deep, deep peace, and it makes life worth living. And it makes life enjoyable. All right. Adios. Thanks, guys.